Revelation 2219. From the 22nd of January 1942. Mindful teaching in truth presupposes faith in God. Every spiritual question remains unanswered as long as the human being does not affirmatively turn to the eternal deity, for it is spiritual forces which have already found union with God who are responsible for answering such questions. Understandably, they will not convey the flow of strength from God to a person who does not acknowledge the giver of strength. Spiritual knowledge, however, is strength from God. Strength from God can therefore only be received by the human being who acknowledges God, otherwise the whole world would stand in knowledge, since the light and strength imparting beings would not deny the flow of strength to anyone on earth. But God sets conditions for the reception of truth, and the first condition is that the human being consciously decides in favor of God, that he believes in God as creator and controller of all things, who is exceedingly wise, kind and omnipotent. Faith in a God of love, wisdom and omnipotence also enables the human being to establish contact with the Creator of eternity and at the same time to establish contact with spiritual beings which are allowed to dwell in the vicinity of God in a state of perfection in order to constantly receive and pass on His divine strength. These beings constantly endeavor to help earthly people whose faith is still shallow. They try to make people think so that they send their thoughts upwards inquiringly. Only then can they give an answer, that is, instruct people mentally. But people who do not believe in God cannot imagine how much more difficult it is for them to raise spiritual questions. They don't recognize anything spiritual and therefore don't direct their thoughts towards that direction which they reject in their innermost being. But again, no answer can reach people if they don't ask, for only through questions are the beings able to mentally convey answers to them. Only through the question does the human being open his heart, and only now can the flow of strength flow to him, for only now has he established the connection which God makes a condition. The human being has to acknowledge God in order to be able to recognize Him. He has to bow down to Him in deepest humility in order to receive His grace. But if God conveys the truth to people, if He wants to make them knowledgeable, it is an exceedingly great grace, and this grace has to be consciously requested. Thus the human being first has to acknowledge through mental questioning that there is a Creator from whom he assumes that he can answer his question by virtue of His wisdom and also wants to answer it by virtue of His love. And he must humbly ask this now acknowledged Creator for clarification, for knowledge and truth, then he will not open his heart in vain. He can now be instructed by the knowing forces in the beyond, and they will not let him ask in vain. They joyfully share what they receive from God themselves. They give because they are in love, and giving gives them bliss. And what they give is purest truth, since they are merely the executors of divine will, but God offers nothing else but purest truth to the one who expresses the desire for truth through his mental questioning. Amen.